Not my first ride, but this time it's Thailand. My brand new CRF 300 rally, 645 kilometers from Pattaya, chasing the coast to Chantaburi. A couple days in the city, then the long way back inland. Let's get this flip-flop Navigator adventure on the road. Day 1, the goal was simple. Reach the coast as quickly as possible, then follow the shoreline until about an hour before sunset and find somewhere on the beach to spend the night. About 95 kilometers into the ride, I finally caught my first view of the ocean in the village of Ban Phe. Ban Phe also happens to be where the ferry port to Ko Samet Island is. I just left Ban Phe. Ban Phe is where you get the ferry to Ko Samet Island. Ko Samet Island is straight out right there, just out of town. You can even walk to town from here easily. Look at this. This is a hammocking camping dream. You're gonna take the Ko Samet ferry, come down and sleep in your hammock overnight in these pine trees. This is gonna be a beautiful drive if it keeps going like this. There's my setup, my helmet, gas tank bag. Held on by magnets. I have all my important stuff in there, so when I walk into 7-Eleven or walk away from my bike, I can just grab that. I just put a few items in there, easy access, and it gives me something to lean back against. I actually need more items, so I have a better backrest. About 100 kilometers in, and I finally hit the coast. Riding south from Ban Phe through the small villages and quiet beach communities was exactly the kind of ride I had been hoping for. Relaxed, scenic, and easygoing. About a half an hour before reaching it, I started seeing signs for Ko Samet Bridge everywhere, so I figured it had to be worth checking out and took a short detour to see it for myself. Goes out there and there's a lookout up there. The bridge wasn't what I expected, but the little mangrove fishing community was worth visiting. Only a couple kilometers from the ocean, the water must be brackish. I wonder what kind of fish or seafood they raise here. As I was leaving, I found signs to the real Ko Samet Bridge. I headed south again as the sun slowly dropped towards the horizon. I was really enjoying the ride, passing through the quiet beach towns and small fishing communities, each with its own unique personality and charm. Before long, I crossed into Chantaburi province and made my way to Kung Wiman Beach, where I stopped for the night. Gonna go eat dinner there, watch the sunset. I checked in here, I'm on the second floor. Today I've got a room with a view. Huge bed, looking out at the sunset. Look at these guys floating on the air. Stir-fried scallops, garlic fried shrimp, and a beautiful Chantaburi sunset. The day's ride ended up being 185 kilometers and took me nearly 5 hours, averaging just 38 kilometers per hour, much slower than I expected. Fuel stops, taking photos, and detours along the way take more time than I realized. Truthfully, I wanted to go even slower so I could spend more time exploring the small communities and stopping for a long, relaxing lunch, but getting a late start changed the pace of the day. While eating dinner that evening, I thought back on the day and realized I had spent too much time sitting in traffic lights along Highway 3 near Rayong. On future rides, I'll stay closer to the beach and stick to the smaller coastal roads. Even if they're slower and pass through towns and small cities, I'd much rather ride those roads than deal with heavy traffic, trucks, and endless stoplights on the highway. This is my first unguided motorcycle road trip. I'm sure I'll learn more about planning, daily mileage, and the kind of pace I really enjoy as the journey continues. Big rainstorm woke me up last night, and this thing saw rain for the first time. It was brand new. Day 2, my plan was to ride south along the coast more, then head inland to Chanthaburi City with a detour to Nong Bua, one of the oldest communities in Chantaburi with Sino-Portugese influences going back more than 200 years. Before leaving, I sat down with a cup of coffee on the front deck of the hotel. The sweet ladies working there insisted I take a few minutes to relax before heading out, and I'm really glad I listened. It became lesson number 1 of this motorcycle touring journey. Slow down once in a while and truly enjoy where you are. I've known that for a long time. I just need to get better at actually living it. Shrimp omelet with little bits of shrimp inside and a tiny bit of chili sauce with an ocean view. Riding along the south coast of Chantaburi province is incredible. Temples, bridges, fishing docks, and something new waiting around nearly every corner. When I spotted a small road leading toward the beach in this village, I had to go check it out. This was just one of the many beaches along the way, and every single one of them was amazing. I saw signs pointing toward this island, so I decided to take a detour and unexpectedly came across Wat Ko Proet. Nong Bua is a riverside community with more than 200 years of history. Long before highways connected this part of Thailand, communities depended on canals and the sea for transportation and trade. Over the years, Chinese and European trading influences helped shape the area, and the old dark wood buildings still show Sino-Portugese architecture. I first discovered Nong Bua on a bicycle trip a few years ago, and it's exactly why I want to ride the smaller roads. You slow down, take a random turn, and suddenly find yourself in a 200-year-old riverside community that most travelers drive right past. Nowadays, Nong Bua returns to its trading roots every Saturday morning when the streets come alive with food vendors, market stalls, and visitors exploring the old riverside community. "97 kilometers later, I arrived in the city of Chantaburi. The plan was to check into a historic hotel for 2 nights so I could explore the old riverside city and take a short ride around Ko Samet National Park before heading back home on day 4. Sawadee Cup. I called earlier for a reservation. Yeah. I'm in the historic hotel. Padlock on the door. Old wood room. The shower's a wood bucket. The bed is up there in the loft. Room with a view in Chantaburi. How old is this guy? After dinner, I walked along the riverside to the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception, captured a few evening shots of the city, and called it a night. I'm staying at this historic inn, and breakfast is included. Breakfast with a river view. Day 3's plan was to ride around Ko Samet National Park before continuing on a figure-8 loop. I designed it so I could easily cut off the top section of the ride if I wanted a shorter day. The ride around the national park was beautiful, although not quite as rural and remote as I had imagined. Still, the scenery was great, and I even stopped for a swim in a waterfall. Another first for me on this motorcycle touring journey. Well, I paid 200 baht. And the access to the second waterfall, 3 kilometers up higher, seems like it's closed. So I think I should at least take a dip. Probably should have headed home from there. Instead, I continued on the upper part of the figure-8 route and quickly realized it turned into a large highway section which I could have skipped entirely. Near the end of the ride, I stopped for fuel at a gas station that had completely run out. Luckily, I was able to fill up across the street instead. This was the first time I've had trouble finding gas in more than 3,700 kilometers of motorcycle touring over the last couple of months. I have to say, the staff at Luang Raja Maitri Historic Inn were absolutely fantastic and incredibly motorcycle friendly. They had a separate parking area outside, but they allowed me to park my bike inside the covered bicycle parking area under lock and key during my stay. Perfect. This is so nice. I don't have to worry. I can sleep very good. If you visit Chantaburi, I highly recommend staying or at least visiting Luang Rajamaitri Historic Inn in the old Chantaburi waterfront community area. The beautifully restored 150-year-old Sino-Portugese riverside house now operates as both a historic inn and a small museum. That evening, I parked the bike, enjoyed a few specialties for dinner, took some more videos around the city, and packed up for my inland ride home on day 4. Chinese noodle soup for breakfast. Noodles, eggs, onions I can smell, cilantro. I had this yesterday. It's Chinese dough, a little bit of condensed milk, a little bit of coffee. Day 4 turned into my longest ride of the trip. 238 kilometers inland from Chantaburi through Rayong and back to Chonburi. I simply wanted to take a different route home, so I didn't really mess with the Kalamoto app's winding road setting other than dragging the route around the outside edge of a big lake, and it ended up becoming one of the most scenic rides of the journey. The roads wound through lakes, rubber plantation, and endless green countryside that most people just pass through without ever stopping. This little shakedown trip was a success in every way that mattered. I made it home safely, saw new places, and genuinely enjoyed the ride. It also reminded me that future trips don't always need to be about covering distance. I need to slow down more, stop at roadside food stalls, set up the hammock, relax, and spend more time connecting with local people along the way. Stopped here on the edge of the rubber field. If you ever hear that bird, you know you're in Thailand. After 5.5 hours in the saddle, averaging 44 kilometers per hour, I rode back into Chonburi 238 kilometers later for a trip total of 645 kilometers. I'm already planning the next ride. If you enjoyed this flip-flap Navigator motorcycle touring adventure, please like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment. I'd really like to hear what you think about my bike setup, whether you have any suggestions for improving the route, or if there were any must-see places along the way that I missed.